Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Elite Weather Forecasting. I'm Dooley Godot, also known as Mr. G. I am your meteorologist. I am a student at Mississippi State University majoring in meteorology and geosciences. So, we're going to be talking about that weather forecast today that we're going to be seeing out there. Your city of the day is Minneapolis, Minnesota. Look at that beautiful sunset out there across the Twin Cities. Just some high clouds whizzing on by out there as we see that sun going down now. The beautiful city of Minneapolis. My wife is on her way home from school right now from teaching, and she's stuck in a traffic jam due to some Palestinian protesters on 94 blocking the traffic coming out of the Lowry Tunnel. So everybody's stuck in that traffic jam down in Minneapolis. So I'm hoping she can make it home safely today. But anyway, let's talk about that weather forecast. And thinking of people who've making it home, who have made it through safely, we're going to be talking about the tornadoes that occurred across the South over the weekend. In particular, down in Tennessee, we're going to be taking a closer look at those tornadoes. So let's move on with the rest of the forecast and talk about what's going on across the rest of the lower 48. All right, everybody, let's move on with the rest of your weather forecast for this Monday afternoon or evening now. It's about the 5 o'clock hour right now. So we're going to, at least in the Central Standard Time Zone where I'm located, it's about 5 o'clock in the evening. So let's take a look at those tornadoes that occurred across the South. Now, one of the largest tornadoes that took place on Saturday was in Clarksville, Tennessee. Well, the Weather Service has rated this tornado at EF3. I kind of figured it was going to be an EF3 when I saw the damage. At least EF3, maybe borderline EF4. Tremendous amount of damage. It was absolutely heartbreaking, and our thoughts and prayers go out to those folks out there in Tennessee where they got hit the hardest. Now, there were numerous tornadoes across the South that day. It set a record for, as far as the December tornado outbreak is concerned, where we saw at least 13 tornadoes, possibly more. They just haven't confirmed all of them yet. The National Weather Service is out right now doing their surveys to track the damage, and they can track some of where these tornadoes went and determine the strength of some of these tornadoes. But the Clarksville tornado was rated at EF3, and that one occurred about 1:40 in the afternoon to about 2:42, and we can see the track from the southwest as it made its way from Clarksville up to Russellsville into parts of northeastern Tennessee, right past Nashville. So we can see that tornado made that track over across the state of Tennessee. That was one of the largest tornadoes for that day, and it was a tremendous amount of damage. Some rather dramatic video. There was one of the tornado had hit something that caused a large explosion. I'm not quite sure what that was, but that was a lot more than a transformer blowing out. There was a huge explosion. You could see the orange glow in the sky. It's just in the flames. It was just unbelievable, just like a disaster film it looked like out there. And tremendous amount of video. Reed Timber and some of the other storm chasers were out there. Those guys are my heroes, and they are in the field. They were tracking, trying to keep everybody safe, updating the National Weather Service and maybe some of the local television and radio stations on the conditions so they can pass that information on to the public to keep everybody safe, because there was some issues in some locations where the sirens apparently did not go off in time, and they actually did not get a warning. The sirens didn't go off until actually the tornado had actually passed. So there were some improvements that can be made across parts of Tennessee. But that was one of the largest tornadoes, was EF3. That was in Clarksville. And we also saw numerous tornadoes down across the South. We saw tornadoes across Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee as well, and even across the border into Kentucky, there was a couple of tornadoes. And look at some of these ratings we got here, where we have some of these tornadoes from EF0 to EF. There were several tornadoes that were no EF4, so we didn't have any EF4s, at least at this time. But we did see the largest so far was that Clarksville tornado, that EF3. We had several EF2s and quite a few EF1 tornadoes. There was at least 5 and at least 1 tornado rated a EF0. So a pretty busy day out there across the deep south on your day on Saturday. And that this tornado took the lives of at least 3 people and injured 23 others. So we did have a loss of life and some pretty significant injuries out there across Tennessee as well. And we saw those tornadoes move into Tennessee and Kentucky. See one out there near Bowling Green, and we saw one there through several tornadoes here right through central Tennessee, Clarksville, the Nashville area, and we see all of those tornadoes through Mississippi and even down into the state of Alabama as well. So a lot of tornadoes that happened on Saturday. That was a pretty significant outbreak, and a lot more than I expected, actually. So, yeah, that was a very tough day for the folks down there through parts of Tennessee and again through Mississippi and Alabama as well. So, again, our thoughts and prayers go out to those folks and to the responders that are helping clean things up and search for survivors and things like that, and comb through the wreckage and see if we can find any missing people or anything like that. So let's move on with the rest of the forecast. We have another storm to contend with across the south later on in the week, but as far as we get to midweek is concerned, we have another area of low pressure here that's going to be developing across the southern Rockies and the southern plains, and that's going to move out toward the southeast and into north central Texas and eventually down into the Gulf Coast. Right off the coast, southeast Texas and Louisiana, we're going to see another area of low pressure that's going to lead to potential for some heavy rain and more thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast. And it remains to be seen yet if we'll see another tornado situation or any severe weather. But at least at this point, we know for sure that we're going to see a lot of moisture and a lot of heavy rain. And we certainly can see another round of that severe weather across the deep south. Now we're going to talk about some wintry precipitation through parts of Colorado and into North Texas. We're going to see that snow here through eastern Colorado, south to Denver, here through Pueblo, and down into northern New Mexico. So Albuquerque into north central New Mexico. This is the I-25 corridor and I-40. We're going to see some of that snow where we can see as much as 12 to 18 inches in the dark blue region here along that I-25 corridor. So through Pueblo southward to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So again, a very slippery situation developing along those corridors as we head through the mid part towards the end of the week. And then on the East Coast, we're going to be looking at a nice weather condition through this week. So a nice dry stretch for the Northeast and New England once again. Now, are we being set up for another stormy weekend across the Northeast? Keep tuned to the channels here on TikTok and YouTube, and we'll let you know as we move on through the week. But at least at this point, we're looking at pretty nice weather from the Northeast to the Mid-South and through parts of the Mid-America here. So the Ohio Valley, the upper Midwest, down through the Appalachians, down to the Gulf Coast and the Mississippi River Valley as well. So a pretty nice week there with little to no precipitation to be expected until later in the week along the immediate Gulf Coast, where we could start to see heavy rain and the potential, at least, for severe weather once again along the Gulf Coast. So as we move on and take a look at that heavy rainfall potential from south central Texas and along the Gulf Coast, the I-10 corridor. So we're going to see that rain all the way into Florida, over to Jacksonville, down through Tampa, Orlando, and even down to Miami and Fort Lauderdale as we get to the late part of the week, Thursday, Friday, and possibly even into the weekend. We're going to see that area of low pressure form over Texas, move out over the Gulf, and then track eastward over the Gulf of Mexico, over towards South Florida. So we're going to see that rain, especially over the Florida Peninsula, primarily we're going to see that heavy rain, but we're going to see heavy rain along the immediate Gulf Coast. So Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle, we're going to see the potential there for several inches of rainfall. We saw a lot of flooding last week with the last storm across New Orleans. We saw the levees getting overrun there. We could potentially see that again with several inches of rainfall forecast to fall over the New Orleans area. Again, that stormy forecast Wednesday through Saturday, we're going to see those showers along the Gulf Coast, but much more persistent rain from Central Florida down to South Florida and the Florida Keys. We're going to see much more persistent, and we're going to see gusty winds coming off the Atlantic as well, coming towards the area flow pressure. So we're going to see winds from the east and the southeast, so a nice onshore flow. So we're going to see plenty of moisture to work with and gusty winds as well, with some of that very, very heavy rain that's going to be falling. So again, a situation where we can see flash flooding and some ponding as well. We have a lot of issues that can arise from that over the Florida Everglades and things like that. So again, be prepared for that heavy rain as we move through the end of the week. So that easterly wind is going to lead for a very heavy surf. So I'm not surprised if we see rip current warnings and things like that, and craft advisories, and no swimming advisories on the east coast of Florida, as we're going to have those strong winds blowing from the east off of the Atlantic. So again, localized coastal flooding because of those winds, and combined with heavy rain, and we're going to have some travel issues as well. People might be getting ready for the holiday and they might be traveling home early. So if you're going to be driving especially, we're going to have some of those issues with rainfall. And if you're taking a cruise, heavy rainfall over the Gulf as well as the Caribbean might make some delays or issues with your cruise as well. So check ahead to your cruise line or your travel director if you're taking any Caribbean cruises this week, as well as that heavy rain is going to be widespread and far-reaching down across the Gulf and the Caribbean as well. So let's take things out to the West Coast, where we have a very different scenario. We finally lost that fetch from the Pineapple Express or the Atmospheric River. We're not seeing the heavy rain across the Northwest this week, which is great news. Some time to dry out before the next round of rain begins to move into those areas. But we have some dry weather to talk about across Southern California, where we have high pressure over the Great Basin, and that high is contributing to an offshore flow over Southern California. So it's creating Santa Ana winds, and we're going to see those winds gust as high as 40 miles an hour through some of the canyons and the passes like Tehachapi Pass, El Cajon Pass, places like that. We're going to see those high winds blowing out of those mountains across the Inland Empire, those valleys, so Ontario, Pomona, and Chino, places at the mouth of Mount Baldy, and places like that. We're going to see those very gusty winds. Very dry conditions as well, so there is a critical fire potential, elevated fire risk, as we have very dry air in place, dew points in the single digits, the relative humidities 10% or below, so very dry. So please be careful if you are doing anything pertaining to fire or anything like that. So if you're camping, make sure that you are being responsible and putting out your campfire once you are done with it, okay? So a little bit of safety information for you as far as those Santa Anas is concerned. Now we have the Geminid meteor shower that's going to be affecting parts of that we're going to be seeing from Wednesday through dusk through Thursday at dawn. So we have this region here in the darker colors is where you're going to have clear skies in the early morning hours, where you can have a better opportunity to see those meteors, and they can present at least 100 meteors per hour. So pretty good. We have the Leonids and we have the Geminids it. So this is one of the good ones that we see from time to time. So we're going to be seeing that potential there for good viewing for the meteor shower, which is good news for folks in the upper Midwest because it's often cloudy this time of the year, and we seldom get to see these opportunities, and we haven't been able successful to see the aurora borealis because we've had a much more active sun period, and the auroras have been going strong, but it's been very cloudy lately, so we haven't been able to enjoy that here in Minnesota or southern Canada. But you will have a good opportunity to see the Geminids because clear skies are in the forecast, so I'm happy to report that. You will have poor conditions down in the south and along the Gulf Coast and into Florida because of our newly developing storm that's going to make for a lot of cloud covers and heavy rain and even some severe weather once again across the south. So that's going to limit your opportunities to view the meteor shower this week. So I'm sorry about that. So that is your weather forecast for today. My name is Mr. G, meteorologist for you with a late in the day forecast because I've been trying to do finals today, get semester wrapped up, and once I'm done with that, I have one more to do. Then I am free because vacation next week. I'm going to be going to the family in Illinois, so we won't have videos next week because I won't be in my studio unless there's a way that I can record a video for you. I'll figure that out. But if not, when we get back on the 29th, will be our next video after these videos this week. Okay? Thank you for watching me, guys. Leave your likes, comments, and subscribe to the channel on TikTok and YouTube. Bye-bye.